Oh, give. Give. Good boy. No, the dog that brings the wad back. Hi everyone, Adrian here. Welcome to Wild Bush and Grit. To learn and put your learning into practice is probably the most addictive thing I can find on this planet. Honestly. Actually, video games, this is my background for people who don't know, video games are actually designed with that specific, learning to practice in mind. And this is why some of them are like addictive. And what I've done here today to me is no different than the best video game you can play on the planet. And I want to thank one of you folks, Bad Endings, for throwing out the idea and the slight challenge. I love it. I went on doing some research, and yeah, there was a lot of things to learn actually. Trying to find the best pattern for turkey, and of course, whatever the learning that I've accomplished here is going to carry on forward for my waterfall loads and other type of hunts. But there are a couple of key takeaway here that I would love to share with you, and if you can also add yours in the comment section below, things that you've done, and let's improve. Okay, I don't think I'm the best at all, far from it, and I can learn also from you folks. Some people out there can also learn from me, so that's why, in my mind, why social media were made of to begin with. So let's start. The first key takeaway I want you to go with here, folks, is don't sweat it. All right, I've done roughly 30 various loads. Some of them actually for factory bout, because I wanted a grunt for a comparison. What's munition out there, so I can compare mine to see how far I can get to their level, or actually beat them. And of all the loads that I've done, like, let me show you this. I shot a lot, all right? I shot a lot of turkey, and all these virtual turkeys are dead. All of them. And of course, again, it's a game. There's percentage, there's luck involved. And one particularly unlucky turkey still died with 1 pellet to the brain. This unlucky turkey here actually got 2 pellets in the brain. I have 5 pellets in the circle. A 6th pellet went outside of the circle, but right inside the brain, and the other one at the base of the skull and thing. So this is my worst pattern ever, and that turkey is still dead. Efficient load? Absolutely not. And which leads me to point number 2. Of all the loads that I've worked, there are trends, okay? There are things that are good practice and not good practice. The point number 2 is buffer matters, all right? And I've made some tests. I have 4 shell, 2 of them loaded with buffer, 2 of them no buffer, and the difference is staggering. It's more than double the amount of shots at 40 yards. All the shots that I took, all the patterns that I'm showing are metered. I use a rangefinder, and the distance that I set myself to this target is 40 yards. And as I was saying, the difference between a shell that had buffer and one that didn't have buffer is night and day. And this is, to me, like forever from now on. Whenever I'm gonna look for waterfall, when I know I have to get them, especially snow geese that I need to get at a certain distance, it's going to be buffered, all of them. You have to choke it, but choke it right. All right. I've done some choke test, and last year I already had my best choke was the Carlson Longbeard turkey choke, and this year I compared it to the Mueller H2O, which is it's not like super tight, it's a little bit open so that you can still shoot with it. So it's a waterfall and turkey choke, and it actually did better than the Carlson. I have a scoring system, so for all of these targets, and I'm going to show you a lot of data later, but for example, all the target that I have, I counted the number of pellets inside the 10-inch circle, and I give a score to all these loads. And for 2 shots at 40 yards, the Mueller was at 59 pellet in that circle, and the Carlson was at 45, which leads me to believe that the Mueller does a better job, despite not being, I think it's 20 thousandths of an inch, a little bit wider than the Carlson. That being said, also know that ported chokes usually are not doing as well as non-ported chokes. So maybe that's the difference between the Mueller and the Carlson. So if the Carlson were a choke that is not ported, maybe it would have done better. I don't know. So thus far, it's just hypothetical at this point. All right, so moving on to point number 4. Were there any trend? You bet there is. And let's have a look at that. So these are all the shots that I took, compiled them in an Excel sheet, and trying to see, what was the correlation in the data, in terms of weight, the powder charge, the velocity, the pattern, and all that. The way I score the shots, I have 2 ways of measuring my shots, the success of a load, and I want to highlight here that I use a wide variety of wads. I use some shots had gas seal, some other didn't have gas seal. Some of them were 2 3/4, some of them were 3 inches, some of them were 1 ounce, and all the way up to 1 7/8 ounces. Varied primer. I had 2 types of primers, sometimes Shedite primer, sometimes Federal primer. So I use a large quantity of the various material. Out of this large sampling, I'm trying to see what's the trend to get the best pattern at a distance. The way I measure pattern, I've done it 2 ways. So of course, the first method, which is which load is going to kill the most. And we can already assume, and I'll show you, we'll see that in data, but the heavier the weight in shots, the more pellets you'll have in that circle. But it doesn't mean that that shell is as efficient as another one. And this is why I have a second way of measuring the success of a shell by looking at the percentage of the shots in that circle. And what I mean by that is, for example, a 1 ounce load is roughly 170 pellets, number 5. All these are number 5 pellets, which means that if I'm getting, so for example, one of my shots at 1 ounce, I had 12 pellets, which gave me a pellet percentage of 7%, which is quite low, so not very efficient. Some other load are a bit higher. My highest percentage of shot is 14%. Okay. Before we go into that, let's have a look at this graph here, where I want to show you the first common trends. So all the dots here are various shots at various velocities and various percentage rating. And what I want you to look at or observe is the trends. You see from left to right how the dots are naturally going up, and that goes with the number, it goes with velocity. So the higher the velocity, the better my percentage was. And to me, this is counterintuitive to what I've always heard, mostly from people, online and all that, saying like, oh yeah, if you get like a slow load, your groups are going to be super tight. But this doesn't correlate with that data. Maybe there are more testing to be done, I don't know, but like out of 30 shells, I can safely assume that, well, there's a trend, which is when you have low velocity, you have poor dispersion. When you have, there's a, in the rifle reloading community, we call that a node. There is, at some point, you'll reach a node where you have the best groups. And I think it's the same thing happening here with the shotgun. At a specific range of velocity, you have the best pattern. And as you start to go above a certain velocity, you're getting less, your patterns are opening up and are worsening. So too fast, not good. Too slow, not good. You had to be just right, the Goldilocks of shot shell, to have a nice pattern. And what I find here in my data is anything under 1300s to maybe 1100s, okay? So that's the sweet spot I find, regardless of the weight, okay? Whether it's 1 ounce or 2 ounces, well, 1 7/8, it doesn't matter. Whatever the load charge, the best velocity to me was between 1100 and 1300. Now let's have a look at the score. Okay, if you are purely looking at which one killed the most, well, which one has the most potential for killing? The primary score is the number of pellets in that circle, and obviously, my highest pellet score is 38, and the load was 1 7/8 ounces, so heavy field load, and velocity was 1252, under that 300, above that 1100, and the percentage pellet here is 11.91, so almost we can average that to 12%, which is not bad. This one is a 3-inch shell with 28 grain of long shot, 1 ounce and 7/8. Yes, that one kicked a lot. And actually, I think I have it somewhere. I can show you. So this is what the beginning of overpressure looked like. Okay, you can see like in this one is the overpressure. This is the normal load. The overpressure, you can see there is like a rim around the where the pin striked the primer. Okay. So when you start seeing this, do not add more powder to these to this load. Okay, like this is what 28. I will never go to 28.5 or 29 because of that. And even cycling, ejecting the shell was hard. Like it was stuck inside, and I had to use like way more force than normal to eject that shell. So that was I think the one that has the most killing ability. Let's have a look at my most efficient at 14%. So the most efficient was a 2 3/4 inch using HS6 30 grain. It was 1 1/4 of an ounce. And for that one, I use the AMEC biodegradable OXO wad. And the primer was a Shedite primer. It flew at 1262. I had 30 pellets in that circle, and that's 8 pellet less than my best killing load, but the efficiency is only 2% higher. But no overpressure here, so technically it would make sense to use that one. It's safer, less kick, So here, if I sort the field with velocity, you can see that at the lowest end, the score in the pellets are actually low, color-coded in red. So red is low, green is high. So you can see how it affects the score and the pellet percentage, right? So it's the color tells you in comparison with the other where these actually compare. And the higher you go, you'll see at the bottom, near the end, you have more green overall across the range, and this is because that's the sweet spot, the node that I was talking about. And then as you start to get a little bit faster, then we start appearing a little bit of pink at the bottom, meaning that the patterns are opening here. And voila. So those were the highlights, right? So the worst and the most efficient. I think also have a nice range of loads that actually did pretty well. And it was using long shot powder, 1 3/8 of an ounce of shots, all in 3-inch size shell, using MG42 wads, this one, a nitro card at the bottom, ready to compress the powder and raise the shot column so I have nice crimp on the top, using Federal primers, and of course the buffer. And I have a really nice, 12-13% in average. Pretty good. That's it, folks. Don't oversweat it. All these loads that I have killed the turkey, some better than the others. There are definitely some loads here that I will not be using, but if you're doing things, if you add buffer, from what I've seen here, whatever you do, doesn't matter much, okay? You're gonna get turkeys, and 40 yards is really pushing it, right? I think to do better than that, If you do have a recipe that can do better than this, please share it with me, and I'll be very happy to try it out. But in my mind, to do better than what I just had, I have to use tungsten. But 1 pound of tungsten is like $200 here in Canada. 1 pound of tungsten, how many shots are you getting out of it? And it's like the price getting ridiculous, right? And so if you have a better load, please share it with me. I would love, if you can send me your picture of pattern if they are available, and I would try to replicate your success. And that's it. So don't oversweat it. Use buffer always. Use the right choke. You have to do some tests. Understand, we can't all go out and buy 40 choke and do the test. Me, Carlson, great choke, the Longbeard, and the Mueller. Actually, if you're interested in the Mueller, I actually recommend that product. And I went on their website. I registered to their affiliate program. And if you're interested, please use my link down below. It's gonna help the channel at no extra cost to you. Thank you for doing so if you do. Don't sweat the type of shell, wads, gas seal, no gas seal, powder. To me, all this had very little incidence on the actual success of the best and the shot. I think it's really the combination of course it does have an incidence, but I'm saying it's not primary. Speed and buffer are the primary thing you need to lock down first. All right, folks, that's it. This is where this one ends. Have a good one. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you do, give me thumbs up, subscribe to my channel. More video like this incoming, pretty sure of it. All right, folks, bye-bye.